Teacher Bestie, before I start thinking about my classroom setup, before I buy new supplies, before I even start planning lessons, I have learned that I need to reset myself first. Because after years of teaching, I have realized something. A new school year doesn't need a completely different teacher. It needs a teacher who has taken time to reflect, renew, and intentionally prepare. So today, I'm taking you through my actual back to school reset routine. This is a process I use before walking into the new school year, and I want you to reset along with me. So come along. Welcome back to Keeping It Teacherish. If you're new, I'm Patrice, a fourth grade teacher, and this channel is all about helping teachers create healthier classrooms without losing themselves in the process. So if you're preparing for a new school year and you feel like your to-do list is a mile long, this video is for you, friend. Because before we reset our classrooms, we have to reset ourselves. Okay? So the first part of my reset routine is rest. I know. Many of us, we've slept all summer. We have literally been in hibernation, right? Uh, and so that's right. That's good. For me, rest doesn't just mean taking a break or sleeping, even though I love to sleep. It means taking time to look back and process the year that I finished, right? Because teachers are really good at moving on to the next thing, moving forward. I mean, that's the nature of our job, right? We say goodbye to students every single year and we go right on to the next year and we do it all again. So we finish the year exhausted, close our classroom doors, and then suddenly it's August and we're trying to build a brand new version of ourselves to kind of, I don't know, like we're robots or something. But before I think about what I want to change, I think about what I want to remember the most. So why don't we do that together? Let's take a moment. What's one thing from this past school year that you're proud of? Or one thing from the year that gave you energy? Maybe it was a student breakthrough. Maybe it was a relationship that you built. Maybe it was a moment where you realized, I'm really growing as a teacher. Let's pause here just for a moment so you can reflect. Nice. If you need more time, simply pause the video and catch up with us. As we move forward, I think it's important that we celebrate what went right because teachers do a really good job of focusing on what didn't go well. But growth doesn't come from fixing things, right? Growth is not equivalent to perfection. Growth comes from recognizing the progress. Growth comes from seeing what went well, and most importantly, recognizing what God has already helped you to accomplish. So the second question that I dive right into is, what is something I do not want to carry into this year? Maybe it was unrealistic expectations. Maybe it was comparison. Maybe it was perfection, because I am a recovering perfectionist. And so the pressure to do everything perfectly was my thing. Every year doesn't need a makeover teacher or even a brand new teacher. Sometimes it just needs a healthier version of the teacher you already are. And sometimes the only way to find that out is to notice, what is it that I need to drop off from the last year so that I can be a better version of myself for this upcoming school year. The second part of my reset routine is renewing. This is where I reconnect with my purpose, where I find Patrice again, right? You guys are seeing my pictures of me. I have a new hobby. I'm playing tennis. Who knew, right? After you rest, it's so much easier to renew. We've talked about this before in a previous video, that rest and recovery are two different things. And often teachers only rest in the summer and we don't fully reach the recovery part. But this is where we talk about renewal, because somewhere between the lesson plans and the paperwork and the meetings and everything else that teachers carry, sometimes we lose sight of why we started and who we were before we began. So I like to ask myself, why do I teach? And some days I don't know the answer. But after I've rested and remembered the good parts and also identify what I need to leave behind, I'm able to better identify why I teach, right? What do I want my students to experience in my classroom? And how do I want students to feel when they walk out of my classroom in May? These are all the things I'm able to better answer once I am rested and in my recovery stage. So let's try this quick pause and reflect exercise. How about it? Because it's easy to watch YouTube videos and you never actually exercise what we're doing. So let's try it right here. I want you to finish this sentence. I want my students to remember my classroom as a place where they felt blank. Go ahead, write that word down somewhere. Google Doc, it can be in your notes, it can be on a random sheet of paper, whatever. Write it down because that word is important. That answer becomes the foundation of everything else for the year because classroom management, procedures, decorations, routines, all of it should all support the kind of environment that you want to create in your classroom. Now, to the next part. Reset. Preparing my classroom intentionally. I have to admit, I understand the importance of the rest and renew, but reset is by far my favorite. And it's probably why most teachers naturally jump to this place first, the classroom. But notice, we waited, we explored, and we discovered. Because once we know who we want to be and what kind of classroom we want to create, our decisions become much clearer, much easier to choose between the patterns and all the things that we're looking into when we're talking about what are we going to do with our classroom this year. So this is where I pull out my classroom reset checklist, and I'm going to put it up here so you can see it. I don't use this as a way to create a giant list of things I have to do. I use it as a guide to help me think through what actually needs attention before students even arrive. Some of the things I look at are what systems worked well last year, right? What routines need to be adjusted. I actually go through and grade my routines in terms of these went well, these need a little more tweaking. And I really look at that from the standpoint of what did I hear myself repeating at the end of the year the most? I also look over what materials need to be organized, what areas of my classroom need to be refreshed, and what changes will actually make my classroom function better. Here's my list and the things that I go through. So, on my first classroom visit, as we're going to go to now, you'll see that these are the things that I'm looking for. One thing I have learned over the years is that not every classroom needs a complete makeover every August. Sometimes the best changes are small changes that make our days run smoother. And for me, I'll be honest, while I want to gut the entire room and start over with a new theme because my creativity needs to breathe, the reality is, your girl ain't got time or energy for that. So this year, I'm focusing on enhancing what we have, right? So as I walk through my classroom, I start asking myself, what worked here last year? What frustrated me? What needs to be changed? And then I begin to dream. For example, on this wall, I'm going to remove this US flag, our map, and probably put it on the other side of the room. But this area, this wall space here, I'm gonna make this. You see I have the three. So I'm gonna make those three things go over here, and that will be ELA, math, and then reading, actually, is what we'll do, probably. I maybe do ELA and reading, math, and then science or social studies as the last one. But for you, Bestie, maybe it's organization. Maybe it's student access to materials. Maybe it's creating space that better supports independence. The goal isn't to create the most Pinterest worthy classroom so we can post it. The goal is to create a classroom that supports learning and, most importantly, supports the goal that you want for your children at the end of the year. The last part of my reset is remembering that I am not only a teacher. Oh, yes, I'm a whole person. It complete newsflash to me, right? But before school begins, I also look at my routines outside of the classroom. Things like, how are my mornings going to work? What do I need to do? What do I need to put in place so that I can be successful? Because a hectic morning leads to a hectic teacher that has a bad attitude by the time her students arrive. I'm talking about me, not you. Maybe you're fine. I don't know. What boundaries do I need around my time? I'm also preparing my home. As a teacher mom, I'm thinking of the simple meal plans. Like, what are we going to eat for those days when your girl is too tired to go to the kitchen, right? the easy things that help my house run well, but most importantly, that will help protect my energy during the school year because a healthy classroom starts with a healthy teacher. Now, before we end, I want to leave you with one last question. What is the one thing you're going to do differently this school year? Not 10 things, not a whole list, not a complete intervention, just one intentional thing. Because teacher bestie, the reality is you don't have to become a completely different teacher this year. We've already discussed that. You don't need to erase who you are or what you've done. You don't have to chase perfection. You can reflect on where you've been, renew your purpose, and reset what needs to change, right? And that's enough. For me, I'm remembering to create margin. That's my one thing that I'm doing differently this year. So, listen, if you want to continue this reset process with me, I've created a rest, renew, and reset guide to walk you through these same questions and more to help you prepare intentionally for the school year. Link it below if you want to go deeper. And I would love to know in the comments, we've got to engage. What's one thing you're doing differently this year? I've already told you mine is having more margin, right? Creating more margin or planning with margin. It's probably a better way to say it. But what's your one thing that you're doing differently this year? Listen, this is Keeping It Teacherish. As always, I've enjoyed you. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this video. If it's encouraged you, why don't you like and share it? But then most importantly, if these are the type of videos and the content that you're interested in, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a minute because I've got so much more to share with you. I'll see you soon. But until next time, this is Keeping It Teacherish, and I'm your teacher bestie, Patrice. Bye, guys.